Hola, bienvenue, and guten tag. Welcome back to the Ikat Tepi podcast. Now, before we start today's episode, I would just like to thank everyone for their constant support on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. If you guys don't already know, we reached 100 followers on Instagram. Woo! Ching!
Go!
You know what that means, right? We're gonna buy $10,000 bottles at Kyo. Let's go.
I'm too
I
Sponsored by
broke
really
for that.
we don't
Praveen.
have that kind of
I'm
money.
too
Brother,
broke for
Unfortunately.
that.
brother haram, bro.
I mean, just for me and email, just for me and email, just for me. Yeah, not for you guys. But yeah, so you might be wondering, what are the boys back here to talk about? Well, if you guys are paying attention to my background, you can clearly see sex education. So,
Nice. You had a
sex
lot of
education.
enthusiasm in there, bro.
I mean, dude, it's,
He had a lot of pent up energy.
we're talking about one of my favorite
A lot,
topics.
bro.
So, yeah, let's just start off the episode with, what do you guys know about sex?
Sex is when
Sex.
the PP touches the
Nah,
special
bro.
parts.
Okay, wait. Hold on. What is the definition
Are you
Oh
actually
my
going
god.
to-
He's gonna quote
Of-
Wikipedia for that.
of sex in Oxford
my God.
Dictionary?
Well, thank
Right.
God it's not Urban Dictionary. I hate
Is the
to see
fact
what
of
this-
being male or female, especially when considered the reference to social and cultural differences rather than differences in biology of a particular gender as a group. That is what sex is. Sex is.
I think that's the wrong kind of sex.
Bro, come on.
You got a completely different one right there.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, just start off when did you guys first, figure out sex?
When I figured out sex.
Oh,
I
Emil, that was
yeah,
like what,
it was-
2 years
it was
ago, right?
definitely it was definitely porn.
That was like 2 years ago, right, Emil?
Oh yeah, it was actually last week, when Praveen introduced me porn. But no. My like how I know like what sex is actually through porn. Yeah. Like no one taught me anything. Like it was just porn. From porn.
I mean, yeah, like,
watching
to
porn
be-
and then like seeing like, oh, what are they doing? And then it's just like, oh, I feel good watching them do that. Yeah. And then you start going into the rabbit hole of like, what the fuck is that? Like, what are they doing with their bodies? And then you search and then you find out that okay.
Yeah,
that's
breakdancing, bro.
I mean, yeah,
wrestling, WWE.
I'm not 100% sure about like the rest of the world, but for me personally, like in Malaysia, growing up, we didn't really have sex education,
Mhm.
and I don't think like my parents ever came and had the talk with me. So me growing up as a kid, I was basically not even on porn sites, but on YouTube because I didn't even know what porn sites were in the first place. So I was on YouTube looking up, I don't know, things just like naked girls, sexy
Yeah.
women.
I feel like everyone starts off with like those kind of like they don't search porn straight away. They would just go to words that they know.
I mean,
like,
Wait,
like,
hold up.
What,
Wait,
what,
wait,
do
wait.
you,
Naked
what do you
girls.
even what do you even search for? Like naked grandma? Like I don't know, man. Just
What
a
the
bunch.
whatever floats your boat, man.
wait, wait,
It's
wait,
just
wait,
fun.
wait,
And I
wait.
think like the first video I saw was essentially like I think just like a couple like having sex, and like I didn't even know what they were doing. I thought the guy was taking out his penis and just rubbing it against the woman because I couldn't see it. I'm just like, why is he rubbing it
Wait.
so fast? Are they trying to make a fire or something? Like,
Wait, hold up, Praveen. Let's backtrack a little bit, right? When you said you Google naked girls and semen, why did you Google semen?
I didn't Google semen. When did I say Google semen?
You
I
said Google semen, bro.
I said
Nah,
sexy girls.
bro.
I
you
didn't-
said you Google semen,
Rewind-
bro.
rewind the
I
clip.
am
I did
that-
not say semen. I did not say semen.
Nah, bro. You say you Googled semen, bro. Oh my god.
Wait, I don't even know if I knew what semen was till I was in like high school.
No, I think it was like during like political Islam. I think there was Sasa said I money. Yeah, I
That's what we
money.
Googled.
Sham.
yeah.
Yeah, I money.
Nice, interesting.
But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is just that growing up in Malaysia, there was just a lack of awareness about sex in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was it? What you have to do? I think the main goal of Malaysia was just like, hey, if we ban all the porn sites, and if we just don't talk about it, the kids won't know what it is, and they won't do it. Foolproof
Yes,
plan.
yeah.
Curiosity killed the cat, what
Exactly.
they all say.
They didn't
That's
know like
like-
a bunch of horny ass teenagers would be like just scouring the internet for all the different
People
porn
can find,
sites.
yeah, people can just find their way into finding out like what porn is all about.
Right,
right?
exactly.
I think for
Yeah,
every
like now being the internet is so accessible to everyone.
mm,
Like even
and
for
then
kids who have like iPads and stuff like that, the shit is scary, man.
exactly. Back then, when I was still very new to the internet itself, how I discovered about like porn or sex in general was literally through like word of mouth, through some of my friends. They all started talking about like sex in general lah. And some of us we don't even understand like what sex is, but I don't know. There's just something within ourselves as like primal beings basically that has like an innate urge of like sex, sexual desires and all that stuff,
Hmm.
right? So I think that's what came about for some of my friends, and then they said that, hey, you should look this up, look that up and everything. And that's how I managed to find out about like sex in general. It all started with like googling about body parts, like female body parts. So I would like type out boobs, and then I find boobs on Google. I type in Virginia and I see like a plot of land because I didn't know how to spell vagina. So I spelled Virginia, that kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's for me lah, based on my own experience. Other than that, I think it was just through pornography, because eventually it just evolved to pornography itself. And I think I speak for most of us lah, that
Yeah, for sure.
we learn about sex through pornography.
I think for me it was a little bit different, like how I grew up, like knowing what sex is. I think because of like being so doused into like like literally like movies and TVs. Like that's where I kind of like got the exposure from. Yeah. So for me, it's like a lot of things like that like happen a lot in films and TV. So it's like when I was young, it's like, oh, what the fuck is that, right? Like it's like like my mom would be straight away take the remote and be like, "Tak boleh tengok, tak boleh tengok, tak boleh tengok." I'm like small, I really don't know what it is, and this is what like kind of pique my
Interest.
like yeah, like pique the curiosity, like what the fuck is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
son,
I
that's a
think for me,
penis.
that's
What?
titties. Yeah, for me, I think it's the same thing. Like I've never been taught like anything like what is sex and stuff. I've just been taught like don't show your private parts. Like like male and female have different private parts, and you don't show each other your private parts, and that's like a no no. No one can touch it.
It's like,
Nothing.
oh my
Yeah.
god, shame.
Yeah. That's all I've been taught like since a kid. So like I think I have actually a really funny story like how I got into like knowing what sex is. Because like okay, so right now I think kids like right now you can like social media, you can see everything can be erotic and stuff like that. You can even bump into like a random ad of porn and shit. Like back in like when we didn't have like internet that well, the way I stumbled upon like porn, it was so funny because
Adult
it
friend finder.
no, the thing is, it wasn't even like a website or anything because we didn't have internet access. The how I found out about porn is actually my brother. Like he came in clutch
Oh,
on that one,
Oh,
right?
you guys watched together, is it?
No, yeah. Because I did
Adriel!
like
hey, Emil, want to watch
I
some
didn't
porn
know what
together?
it was. I really didn't know what it was. And the funny thing on how he got his hands, it was actually like a CD.
Wait, how
It's
you
not.
got his what? His hands
Yes,
It's
and
on
on.
you?
I thought luckily you said CD. I
No,
thought it was
dude.
on you, bro.
Nothing happened between us. Okay, we were just curious kids, and okay, basically he was like being like the elder brother. It was like, hey, you want to see something cool? I was like, hell yeah, show it, bro. And then he played it. I was like, what the fuck? And then yeah, so that's how I know. But the story of how he got it, how he got like so it's basically like those CDs. Like porn last time used to be burned into CDs. Like they'll
Yeah.
record it and then they put it in CDs. Now they put it online. But back then they'll put it in CDs. But how he got the CD, like he told me the story, like how he got the CD was like he has one friend that would always skip class with him. I think it was like he was in secondary school. They would skip class and they would like run around bonding class, do whatever, play around and shit, discover stuff, and then they would go to the guardhouse and hide there from teachers. So when they were in the guardhouse and they discovered like the CD, so they were like, "What the hell is this CD?" Like the guard wasn't there, but they were in the guardhouse and they saw like the picture of the CD. On top of the CD was like I think it was like something erotic. Like I think it was a naked lady or something. So they instantly knew like, oh, this is something naughty. So they stole the CD from the guard, and then they made this truce thingy where they were like, okay, so since there's two of them, my brother and his friend. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, like the first week, his friend took it back,
Oh, yo.
watched it, and then the next week he brought it back to school, and then he passed it to my brother. So when my brother had it, then he brought it back home, he watched it, and then yeah, that's how I found it, because I found the CD, and then he was like, "You want to watch something cool?" That's how I know. I was
Damn.
like, "Oh wow, so
pretty
Bro,
this is
cool.
how adults play."
your brother kind of late ah.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing bonding over with his brother, you know.
No, because last time, like, we would share a room. Yeah. So that's why, like,
Wait,
like, yeah,
hold
we
up.
would share a room, like, because we
What the
weren't that
fuck?
privileged. So we would
Oh
share a room.
wow.
Yeah. First we would share a bed, and then when we were older, and then we would share a room. We would still like, we had like another bed, extra bed. But yeah, because we share a room, so like I pretty much play with him. Like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
do stuff together. So he,
Oh,
like, I'll eventually find the CD. Like, he comes home, he goes to school and stuff like that. We come home the same time, and then when he uses the computer, I will be there because I have nothing else to do. So yeah, so like that's how I
wait, quick
found out.
question. So, do you guys actually like whatever you watch on the CD? Do you all like test it out on each other later, like on the
What
bed?
the fuck are you talking about, bro?
I mean,
Hell no,
that was the picture you're painting right there. So,
bro. No. I was just saying that's how I like he we were close, and he taught me like
Oh, you were
That
something.
close
we
already.
taught you some
No, no,
moves.
no, no, no. He just showed me. He just wanted to be like,
Ah,
Oh, he
I
showed you,
trying to
alright.
educate my little bro.
Oh, he
You
educated you.
you follow
alright.
Coco, ah? You follow I do, ah?
Come, Coco, show you.
Come Coco show you.
No, but
Wait.
nothing,
Hey,
nothing weird
Adriel
happened.
later your uncle see this GG liao.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, ma. I
But I
hope they
guess
don't.
I guess based on like what everybody has already like explained, you can tell on like the the lack of sex education that we have in the system itself, especially in the education system, because we all had to discover it all on our own and like through friends and all. But when it comes to things like this, I personally feel that it should be like sex education should be implemented, not to say as early as we can, but at least at up to the age where we would might be more exposed to like sex in general lah, like especially in high school.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but do you guys have had any like prior sex education back in high school?
Not
No,
high
none.
school, but primary I did in standard six. I think before we like graduated from standard six, we were about to go to high school. They were kind of like there was like a sex educator that came to my school and then kind of showed like what the condom is and blah blah blah. They segregated the guys and the girls lah. So basically, I think if I'm not mistaken, they were using a sandwich like a peanut butter like kind of thing, like kind of like showing the demonstration.
Oh
I'm like,
yo!
Wait, that
I'm
was in
like,
primary school?
yeah, that was
Huh?
my primary school. Yeah,
But y'all
Yeah.
weren't developed yet. How would you?
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's what. Yeah, I actually wanted to say that as well. Like, I feel like sex education would be better catered to high schoolers. Like, because
I
if
don't know,
you're a
man.
primary school, like, I feel like you still wouldn't understand anything.
I don't know, man.
Or
I
probably you're
think
not
I think at that time I was not even fucking listening.
Yeah,
Exactly,
that's one thing.
exactly.
Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, this is about it in terms of like my that prior sex education that I had.
Mm.
What about you guys? What about Praveen and Emil?
For me, I think the only, yeah, actually no sex education at all. But like by the time I remember everyone was hyped for was it science form 3 for biology.
Science
you
Form
learn
3, Chapter
yeah.
4.
Yeah, you learn about the sex parts. But by then, because it's so common, like everyone already knew like about sex. Like did their own research. Like they learned what sex is about by themselves
Mm-mm.
already. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it was just word of mouth with friends. No, like I don't think my schools did any sex education.
Mm.
I mean,
What
yeah,
about
for
you,
me it'd be
Praveen?
the same as Emil. Like there was no form of sex education in school. The only thing remote we had that was remotely close was just biology, form 3, chapter 4. It was just basically telling you how sperm is goes
Spermatozoa.
into the uterus, it swims up, makes into baby fetus, yada yada. But how did the sperm get there in the first place? Nobody knows. It's still a mystery
Yeah.
till today. So
GG.
No
Mm.
one knows.
Yeah, they
Magic,
basically explain the
Magic.
science, but not the action.
not the
I've
action,
got the
right?
Yeah.
magic. You know, you
back
have the magic.
back then it was college for me. Like
Mm.
my first experience with proper sex education came in college. It was part of a chapter actually that we had for social psychology, and what we had to do similar to what Moose did was we had to get like condoms and also a banana, and then they teach us how to use the condom itself. But anything in detail in terms of like how, I mean, they did tell us like, how people get pregnant in general, all right, this and that, but nothing beyond that, like when they talk about like STDs,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
what are the dangers of what would happen if you were to perform like, I was about to say unrated sex, sorry. I was it's
Unrated.
no, not unrated sex, but like unsafe sex
Unprotected.
lah,
Mm.
unprotected,
Protected,
yeah,
yeah.
unprotected sex, right? And I think that's one of the issues that arises after lah, because of the lack of sex education here in Malaysia. But before we get into details on that, right? Because for both Emil and like Praveen lah, I have a question for like the both of you, because I'm always very curious about like what the sex education is like back when you were in the US and compared to like what Muz and I experienced here in Malaysia.
I don't think okay, when we went there, like if we went there during high school, because I know US schools like education, they usually have sex education classes in high school. But in college when we were there, they didn't have any, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, they didn't have any. So like it wasn't even like a subject that you can take or anything. Like I'm pretty sure there isn't. Yeah, for us we didn't experience any like education or anything.
Yeah,
But
because
if
like
not
well,
mistaken, they do have like STD awareness or something like that, where they would
mhm.
ask you to do checkups and stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like I mean, when like what Emil just said, like when we were there, we were there for college, and by
Mhm.
then they just already assume that you know how to use your tools and how to be safe and things like that. But from what like my friends told me, sex education was a mandatory part of their school. They always had like a period or class where they would reserve it for sex education. Teachers would give out things like free condoms. They sometimes they would run porn just to see like how people do it. It was really
Mm.
open over there. And for the kids that were like homeschooled or they didn't really get out much, they would always have like the talk with their parents, and their parents would like tell them like, hey son, this is how you do this and do that. Yeah.
The most
Like
awkward
yeah,
talk
like
with
what
your
Emil said,
parents.
like when we were in college, we would essentially get like I think it was emails, right? So we get
Yeah,
like college emails telling you like, hey, be
chlamydia
safe,
stuff like that.
come
Yeah.
down to the I think it was if I'm not mistaken, it was like free testing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so come down to the university clinic for like free testing. You can do it as many times as you want, as long as you be safe.
Yep.
So yeah.
Mm. That's actually pretty good. I mean, to be honest, like to compare it with Malaysia, right? Based on what I know, what I've experienced so far, there's not much of it. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, right, when it comes to like proper sex education, right, there was an article that I managed to read, right, like when it comes to sexual education programs, right, it was only like implemented in like schools like back in 2011, and even then also the stories is a little bit inconsistent. I mean, like the sex education itself is inconsistent because not a lot of schools would actually implement sex education, because sex in general, especially in a country in Malaysia, is a very taboo topic to talk about. Also,
Yep.
Asian cultures in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that's the sucky part lah. I mean, like as what you guys mentioned, you guys had like awareness, like y'all getting emails about like how to prevent certain STDs, or how
Hmm.
what kind of STDs that you could contract from like unprotected sex, right? Do for
Yeah.
like free checkups, like all these awareness lah, basically. And even then also, in compared to like what Malaysia has to offer, right, based on article, there's only like about 90% of like university students in a particular university that they did the survey on, right, claim that sex education was not been taught to them in schools, you know
Mm.
so it just shows how inconsistent it is, like back then. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure about it now, because all I know now is that it's gotten a little bit better here in Malaysia with
Hmm.
a lot of like NGOs, a lot of like online talks about like sex education in general is getting
Mhm.
much better in that sense, but I feel that it shouldn't have led to something like that lah. I feel like um, Malaysia, they can do better lah,
Mhm.
because
Yeah, they can.
there's a lot of like problems and issues that comes about with like with the lack of like sexual education here in Malaysia.
Yeah. I
And
f- yeah, I do feel like they should enforce it more. Like probably make it like an example like the US where they make it a mandatory class in high school. I
mhm,
feel like that would definitely help uh, students and everyone in general just to know more about like the cause and effects of sex and
mm,
stuff. Because like I think the especially the emails that we got from in college and in Purdue, I feel like that one really like opened up. Especially they were giving out free tests, so that one really like kind of I would say like people are more willing to go and do it. Like they don't feel like it's something that is not like it's looked frowned upon or something.
Hey guys, the future daily reports are here.
If you like what you hear and see,
throw us some suggestions in the comments.
We would love to hear what you guys want us to talk about in the later episodes. Yeah, but I feel like, if schools aren't going to have like these sex education classes or courses, parents should at least take it upon themselves to, have the talk with their kids if they want their kids to be safe. Like if my kids would come up to me and be like, hey, dad, how to use this thing or whatever it is, I'll be like, okay, listen to me. So all you got to do is just, like that, go in, just, just and comes up
Dude,
just,
your kid is gonna be like so weirded
and
out.
then what's gonna happen is just a little bit of that, and then like yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's basically
Your
how
kid
it
will be
and
like,
then
"My dad's a psycho! My dad's a psycho!"
training his son for a WWE.
Yeah.
it's called naked wrestling email.
But I feel like I personally had like that awkward talk with my parents, but because I already knew like what sex was, so when my parents came to me and wanted to
Oh
like talk
yo,
about it, I felt so awkward, and it wasn't like something that we are open about. Like they would openly talk about like since we were young and stuff. It was just out of the blue because they knew that I was at the age of puberty, so they were like, oh, so you're at the age of puberty and stuff. So they literally my dad literally sat me down on my bed. And said, so this thing when you're puberty. I instantly stopped because I felt so awkward. I was like, Dad, chill, chill, chill. I know that, chill, 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 chill. I
itu
know the
mas.
pee become the big. I get the sperm. I get the deep voice. I know what puberty is. Then he was like, oh, he was going to sex, and I was like, chill, chill, chill. That I also know. I also know. I know the titties. I know the vagina. I know how the sex works. And then my dad was like, okay, cool, cool, cool.
Imagine,
He felt.
imagine,
I could see that he felt awkward as well. So he was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna let you be. Okay, just be safe out
ima-
there.
imagine,
God is
imagine,
watching.
like Emil. Imagine seeing your dad just like, all right, Emil, you gotta give him a quick one of these. And kind of,
Dude,
And
what
that's
the
how you do it, son.
Oh god.
but yeah,
Yeah,
that
but I
is
definitely feel
crazy.
like if someone else other than you, personally, I feel like these kind of sex educations would probably be more like you would receive it better if it is coming from like a third party, like someone else. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
someone
just
who
my
isn't
my
like
my
embarrassed to
thought.
talk
Yeah,
about it to you
yeah. Instead of
guys,
your parents, because
right?
you know how like they always say like you won't listen to your parents, but if someone else would tell you not to do something, you would actually like be more attentive, and you would actually like think why, instead of like, oh, because my parents told me so, something like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I feel like that, like having an proper education coming from a third party other than the family would also definitely impact a lot more.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yep,
definitely not wrong.
that's my thought.
Hmm. And when you think about it, right? When you think about like the fact that because not all of us would have like had will get to have the experience of like having our parents to talk to us about like the birds and the bees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's one. And then also at the same time, the lack of like proper sex education here in Malaysia, couple those together, it just leaves a lot of like teens, especially lah, like teens who are just like very uneducated when it comes to these kind of things, and then because of that, a lot of unforeseen circumstances like arises. Like if you really think about it, right? What do you think would happen, like when we are not educated about sex? You know.
Yeah.
True.
hmm then like with like lack of proper sex education, then like problem like will start to arise like things like STDs. The chances of contracting STDs when you have multiple partners would be higher.
Yeah.
you know and then what happens if you're not protected? There's also the issue of unwanted pregnancies. And then with unwanted pregnancy itself, it comes with like issues of like whether to keep the baby or not, right? If you keep the baby, then because at such a young age, a lot of people fear that their life has already ended from there. Because they have to like take care of the kid per se, and they
Mm.
cannot pursue anything else beyond that. And also, if people who opt to like not want to have the kid in the first place, then they will go to like abortion,
Yeah.
things like that lah. And a lot of
Yeah.
people are just not aware when it comes to these kind of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like there's actually been quite a few cases. Maybe because it's always been highlighted, like especially like students, especially in high school, they would always give birth to like the kid, like trying to cover up. But then once they
Mm.
give birth, they don't know what to do with the kid, and they just leave it, or
Mm.
maybe throw the baby
Yeah, they dump
somewhere
the
else,
baby
or
and shit.
dumpster or longkang or whatever. Yeah, yeah. So that I feel like that is part of the that would actually help if we have like proper education on sex.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Right. I mean, I like how you touched about like abortion, because that seems to be a growing problem right now, especially in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was in the U.S., we took an elective. I think it was American History and Law, and so that I learned about this case called like Roe v. Wade. And essentially,
Mm.
Roe v. Wade was it was a landmark case. It was essentially a precedent for abortion rights. Because of that case, people had the right to abort their unwanted pregnancies. But over the years, there have been like a lot of bills that have been passed that are trying to challenge that right. Mainly because people are divided between two categories. They call it pro-life as well as pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
So pro-life believes that abortion is cruel, inhumane. It comes from a more moral or religious standpoint, whereby it's just straight up murder. You're killing the child. And pro-choice is essentially the people who support abortion, and their argument is that um, it's their body, their choice. If these are, let's say, like young women who have like futures or they want to concentrate on their careers, they would choose to abort their unwanted pregnancies because they don't want this to be like to sideline them from like their future or their careers and things like that. So it's been like a growing argument. And I think while Emil and I started in the US, that was during the Trump administration. So that's when a few states actually came out uh, and argued against Roe v. Wade, and because of that, they overturned like the abortion laws in some of the states in the US. I think it was like Texas overturned it, Mississippi overturned it. So people who live in these states, if they would want to abort, they would have to go to a different state and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think
That's
Emil, I think you said so like while we were in the U.S., there would always be like people coming to like protest or raise awareness about abortions. They would just be in like the campus area, putting posters or pictures of like dead fetuses,
yeah.
and they're like, abortion is wrong, you shouldn't do it. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get someone who's pro-choice that gets really angry. They come, they start fighting. They have
Yeah,
like a
they
verbal
just have like the
argument.
live debate there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really hard to say. It's if you're pro-life or pro-choice. Honestly, that's like the argument right now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the biggest things that I've seen is essentially like the argument is so heated to the point where they can even debate that a fetus is not like a fully developed human being, therefore it's not a life, therefore it's not murder. So
Mm,
if your
yeah.
argument goes into like that kind of detail, it's like this has been going on for like a long time. But yeah, that's
Hmm.
That's fair.
just what's been happening over there.
Oh, the US is weird, man.
Is abortion illegal in Malaysia?
From what I know and from what I understand,
Mm-hmm.
it is legal to a certain extent. Because the thing about like legalization of abortion itself, right? Yeah, a lot of people. The thing about that now is that not a lot of people in Malaysia are aware that abortion is legal or allowed in Malaysia. Like I've spoke
Mhm.
to my friends about it, and some of them say that it's illegal. But from what I've read, it's actually legal under two different conditions, lah. And one of it is like. It's only legal if it's to save the life of the pregnant person itself, if it's detrimental to their own life, and two is to preserve the mental or physical health of the pregnant person itself.
Mm.
And you would need like one medically registered doctor's support, saying that okay, this person, if they were to go through the pregnancy itself, they will face these other one of the two issues there lah. And then from there they can start doing like the procedure of like abortion. And abortion actually is available either in like family clinics, hospitals, right out there. But the thing about it is that it's so taboo, right? They don't
Mm.
promote it to begin with, because
Mm-hmm.
they don't want like the public to feel like we are encouraging abortion itself, you know.
Uh,
I
Yeah,
see.
so they keep it like under the table per se, and they try not to promote as much about it. But there are medical practitioners out there who can perform these abortion itself, like at least a safer method of it. Because obviously, when it comes to abortion, right, because of the fact that there is a lack of knowledge about the fact that it's illegal, some people would opt to go for like unsafe abortions, and those unsafe abortions are like real true horror
Risky.
stories.
Yeah.
Risky, very, very risky, because it's either you go to some place that's super duper dodgy to do the abortion itself, or you self implement it yourself,
Oh
you know.
my.
Mm.
Yeah, it's bad. It's as bad, like from what I heard, right? It's so bad to the point where you would use like you know coat hooks,
Yeah, coat
like for
hangers. Yeah.
alcohol.
Oh,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
tried
yeah,
to
yeah.
scoop it out.
They try to
We
scoop it
don't want
out.
to go into
I've
details, but yes,
Mm.
it
yeah,
involves coat hangers.
It
yeah, but
involves
I
coat
Yeah.
actually
hangers.
heard of like people trying to do that as a technique. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
that
you
actually
just
sounds
watch you
so
just
bad,
watch
bro.
the fucking Asylum episode for American Horror Story, bro. Then you get your picture already.
I fucking love American Horror Story.
Oh
You get
man.
the picture.
But that's what they do. That's what they do, especially for those who don't know that abortion is like technically is legal in Malaysia.
Mm.
Because they're so scared, and because it's a taboo, like I mentioned, they're scared to even bring it up to people they know, friends and family. And when it comes to these kind of issues, right, you would need some level of support, some
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
like emotional support. Because for me, I can't speak for anybody lah, but I can imagine that what they go through is very terrifying lah to begin with. Like imagine
Mm.
you yourself finding out that you are pregnant, right? And then if you don't know there are any other options out there on what you could possibly do, right? It's a very scary state to be in, lah.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely, yeah.
Hmm. But then,
It's
like from what I understand, right, there are a lot of non-governmental organizations out there who are trying to create more and more awareness about it, lah. At least for the past few years. I guess that's the state of like Malaysia as of now. You have NGOs that's currently like promoting all these kind of things, lah. Because if you think about it, right, there are some challenges that comes with the fact, like like what you're going to do with the unwanted pregnancy and all, right. You have the cost you have to think about. You have like fear of undergoing the actual abortion to begin with, right? And then you have like stigma within like doctors or clinics on performing abortions due to like personal beliefs,
mhm.
because there are cases out there that some doctors, right, they are trained to be able to perform abortions so at the same time, but based on their own personal beliefs, right, they don't want to do it because it's you're challenging your moral standpoint, and then
Mhm.
they would actually reject like certain like clients, who wants to opt for these kind of things. Again, lack of like sex education lah, in general.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like I think the reason why they don't want to like promote that abortion is technically legal. Um, it's probably because they're scared like it would probably kind of give like the message that hey, even if you have sex, unprotected sex, and you don't want the baby, you can still come and have abortion. But
Mm-mm-mm.
also, I feel like that leads that have that thinking is all due to like the lack of sex education. But
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, sex education, I feel like if you
Mhm.
have proper sex education, that would actually prevent it, and you don't have to promote like abortion or whatever, because it's already taught what will happen and stuff.
Exactly. And like besides the topic of like unwanted pregnancy also, like if you were to perform unprotected sex itself, you bear the risk of contracting STDs. You know,
Yeah.
right? Because STDs is like you only can contract it when it's like a skin to skin kind of contact per se,
Mhm.
and especially when you are like undergoing like sexual intercourse with somebody who has had multiple partners, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? So there's that risk, and for me, it's like it's safe to say that I don't know much about STDs or so in general. I only know like what the definition of it, but in like in detail on like what kind of STDs are there out there, and like whether if it's curable, I kind of like in that particular department lah, you know,
Mhm.
which is
Same,
kind of
same.
bad.
Actually, same. I just know a few STDs, and yeah, I think there's a lot of different types of STDs there
Dude,
out there.
I thought gonorrhea was like a type of like sakit perut berak kind of like
But it's not,
like
right? It's a
yeah,
sexually transmitted
exactly,
disease,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. But
Actually,
that's like what I knew, Maybe I'm
I
just dumb lah, I don't know.
I actually like have this funny story, which also tells you about the state of sex education in Malaysia. But
Mhm,
I have this one coworker who will not be named, but I'm pretty
mhm,
sure he's going to listen to this podcast. So this one time, me and my other coworker, and he was in the car as well. We were talking about STDs, and he casually was just like, "Hey guys, like, what's an STD?" And we were like, "Oh, STD, sexually transmitted diseases. If you don't have safe sex or unprotected sex, like you can contract all diseases." And he was just like, "Wait, what? You can get diseases from sex?" Like he literally was just like so freaked out. And mind you, at the time, I think he was about 26 or 27.
Mhm.
I'm not too sure. And
mhm.
he's been with multiple partners before, and he's like,
Hmm.
"What?" Like he started like panicking so hard, to the point where, like, when we came back from lunch, he went straight to my boss and said, "Hey, can I get some time off to go do an STD check?"
I mean, if you have multiple partners and you haven't done STD check,
Which at
yeah,
at the time he
I can
did,
see why
so
he's
that's why he
panicking.
was just like, yeah. But um the fact is, like, he didn't know what an STD was. He didn't know there was
Mm.
such thing as an STD.
Hmm.
And at the time, he was like I said, at least 26 years old. So you know and when you don't have awareness about STDs, there's also a chance that you can pass them on to other people and things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, to be honest, it's like, well, for us guys, all you gotta do is just walk into the store, get some condoms, be safe before you have sex.
Yeah.
But there also
But the
comes the
problem with
argument, yeah, like
yeah,
how many guys are that confident to just walk into 70 and be like, "Bang, kondom satu bang, cepat sekarang."
someone is just laid up right in front of the counter because you notice like in like convenience stores, it's like laid up right in front of the counter if you
Mhm.
want to get like STDs.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
If
right
you want to
next to
get
the
sorry,
gum.
no, not to get STD, sorry, to get
No,
condoms.
Here, buy an STD.
That's my bad. That's my bad. Fuck,
Yeah,
I
but
was
yeah,
too into
it's laid
STDs.
right next to the gum section. So like,
You want to know why? You want to know why they actually put like for convenience store they put it there?
Why?
Mainly because it really what Praveen
disguise.
said is because of the fact that people are too embarrassed to even buy
Yeah.
from because if let's say you think about it this way, like if the packet of condoms are situated in like the deeper part of the convenience store itself, they would have to like go there, take the box, and then they have to do that walk of shame to the
Mhm.
counter itself, so it's to
Mhm.
save the embarrassment lah. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's why they put it
Hmm.
like right smack in front of the counter. So it's like, oh, pick up dah. And then after that, it's like, abang, cepat, 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 that kind of thing lah. But it's a
Aku,
different story when it comes to like pharmacies lah. Pharmacies, it's fine, that kind of thing lah. But
hmm.
it's
I mean, hey,
true
it's
lah.
not just condoms. Like now, even in 7-Eleven, they have like lube, those like little vibrator rings. I can already
Bro,
imagine
my
someone
news has
going there, just taking,
vibrators, dude.
someone will just go in there and just like grab, like a packet of like 3 or 4, and be like, yeah, no, like,
No, dude,
we're gonna
like
have
a
some
fucking
fun
what you
tonight.
call it? Like my news has like a fucking. Oh my god.
This is my preferred choice of lube.
Oh, it's a Durex.
No, oh my
Oh wait, is Abel
god.
getting his as well? Is Abel getting his as well?
Oh lord.
Please tell me, Emil. Please tell me you got the same one as well. You got the same one, huh?
I am a normie.
Dude, you have to try this one. You have to try this one.
No.
This one has
Oh
a
my
warming
God,
effect. It has
guys.
it's a warming effect. It's really, really good. Best though.
Guys, what the fuck?
Dude, you pair that with Durex Invisible, right? It really feels like the real deal.
Oh my God, jeez.
Hey, Ravina is so what to get out.
He's deep in there, bro.
He brings out a gallon. This is my lube.
My preferred choice.
Are you serious?
I was gonna
Water.
say my preferred choice. Well, these
What's
not
that?
for condoms, but yeah.
No, those are condoms.
But guys, don't be afraid. It's cool.
Is
having
that the
safe
flavored
sex.
one? The watermelon?
No, I don't
The
get the flavor.
fuck?
This is the Pleasure Max with dots and
Oh,
ribs.
What the fuck?
Fancy,
Ah,
fancy.
fuck. You guys, man.
So-
I
Come
guys
on,
are
come on,
too
Moose.
wild
Come
for-
on, Moose.
I
Come on,
don't
Moose.
have any, bro. Like,
Oh,
Invisible.
This is mine. This is my preferred
Hey.
choice.
I don't have any of those kind of things.
yeah,
Right?
that is also my preferred choice. But I have one that I haven't tried. This one.
bro, we're just showing off like condoms like
Oh my
Pokemon cards right
God,
now.
guys.
It's like, yo guys, I got the new,
Oh.
Durex
Shit, hold
GX,
on.
bro.
Hold on.
I heard like this is good, but I don't know. I haven't tried.
Ooh,
I,
that
Featherlight
means-
Ultima.
That
Yeah.
means they got a small peen.
because
peen.
I get the one that you have, Sham,
Mhm.
but like this one I haven't tried. So
But
Yeah.
honestly, I need to kind of like change brands per se because I feel like for some like the Invisible, like Durex Invisible, like the Featherlight Ultima is a little bit too tight for me. Length
Is
wise,
this, is this the part of the podcast where we do like product review?
product review.
sponsored by Durex.
But this podcast is not
Durex
sponsored. by
Durex.
Durex.
I wish.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen those, like,
Durex
those
or
like
one-
vibrator rings that they have?
Yeah.
Like you can find
I'm
them in
not
7-Eleven.
though.
I've yet
Yep.
to see someone who has the confidence to just pick up like the ring lube and a bunch of condoms and be like, yeah, let's go, we're having fun tonight.
Oh my God.
Yo,
Durex,
you must- you want
Durex
to
or
do-
any condom brands, if you guys want to sponsor any three of these boys, go ahead. You know. But send the percentage over on to the Ikat Tepi podcast. Like if you guys want, I don't know about anyone
Please
else,
do,
but
please
yeah,
do.
sure. But like saying like all of this stuff, like I think what people say is correct, but then it's just like embarrassing, man. Like just to kind of like taking the condom and everything. Everyone's gonna get a bit embarrassed, right? Like what the fuck is this? But
Yeah.
maybe some guys will feel that. But it's like a non-norm for us to kind of like what we see in television and people in America or people from the Western countries. They're so proud of like there has no like no shame of like picking the thing up and then put it at counter because it's a normal thing for them, right? It's a norm for them. But for us, like Asians, is like bit weird, lah, right? Imagine an
Yeah.
old fucking old auntie pakai tudung, see you guys fucking buying condoms, like
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I'm
like even buying it, it's like I feel, if you feel embarrassed even like browsing through it, like when you're about to buy, and then I would always like check the line. If there's like a line, I'll probably wait for another time to buy it or like go somewhere else, so that I don't have to stand in line just like holding it in my hand.
I mean, come on,
Yeah.
guys. Just be proud. Be proud that you're making the right decision. You're making the smart choice. And if you're still afraid, Shopee je lah. Easy, get that delivered straight to your
exactly.
house.
Not to mention also that condoms are much cheaper than actually owning a child or even
That's true.
right. Like in the long run, like if you choose not to have like and I mean if you choose like
The
if you
cheap
remember the type of
investment,
person who
yes.
don't want to like have kids in the first place, right? Like if you this is the cost that you have to bear lah at the same time.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Condoms for life lah, I would say.
this I have my one also. The side up.
Ah, yes. That is guaranteed to protect your virginity. That is guaranteed to protect your virginity. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess what we've been trying to say is that sex education, no matter where in the world, is pretty important. It's really important
Yeah.
for the kids of tomorrow to have some semblance of what they're doing, what they should do, and how they should go about it. I think through this entire episode, we've covered like the consequences of not having safe sex, how it can affect you in the long run in life, and how it could affect your future as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, so practice safe sex, kids.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I mean, like, like for you, like for example, like if you, I want to ask this to like everyone on like this particular part of point of the story. Like, if you were have to have a child and he's already at that age, how do you would you guys actually sit down and talk to him or her?
I
Like,
thought
would you
we,
bring
I
your
thought,
partner into it or like to talk about
I
it?
thought I already showed you guys just now.
I'll show them how
Oh, you
it's
got
done.
I think Emil will just break down the
Then what's
chamber
gonna happen?
voice line. You know, like you want to play, let's play.
And this is how your brother was conceived.
Oh
Just
my
kidding.
god.
But yeah, I feel like I'll definitely. I feel like it's a parent's responsibility as well. Like you want to educate your kid, even if like the education system in wherever you are doesn't do it for you, or like there's nowhere to learn it. I feel like it's a parent's job to like educate their kids. Like because like I feel like ultimately everyone would have to know about what sex is and the consequences and the act of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
But
don't
yeah.
know if you guys have seen these ads or maybe some WhatsApp group messages, but there are some people because like what we previously stated, getting an abortion in Malaysia is like super taboo, and people don't really want to know about it. And then that's where these shady groups come out and they offer like black market abortion pills on things like
Mm-hmm.
WhatsApp, Facebook,
The
and
hell?
these are completely fake. Like they don't work. They don't well, not to say they don't necessarily work, but essentially they're just their idea of a pill is just to poison your body until whatever is inside, like doesn't make
Mhm.
it.
And the
So
fact that
Well.
and the fact also that you're purchasing over like the black market itself, or even like through WhatsApp and everything, you don't have a proper medical practitioner to actually
confirm
like
it, right?
confirm it also whether if it works to begin with, and also the proper
Yeah,
use of it. So that bears the risk also at the same time, lah. No, it's fucked, lah. I would say it's fucked.
It's
yeah.
way
It just
scarier if
it
it's
just
not
goes to show you
regulated.
like we need some sort of necessary sexual education courses or classes over here.
Mhm.
Not to be afraid about it or to prevent it, but just to give people a necessary awareness so that they don't make any mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this has been a quite a sensitive topic. Yeah.
Kind of.
Mm. Yeah, but I feel like it definitely hits home to all of us since we firsthand
I mean, I don't
experienced
know
like
about that, bro.
no,
But
no, like the education, like the lack of education in
yeah,
Malaysia.
I think just the education part is something that I think our government or like every educational system should really kind of embody in terms of like kind of like teaching. But there is some like it really depends on the school of thoughts of two sections, whether they are conservative or non-conservative people.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because things like this and such the issue is kind of a sensitive topic to, I would say, a lot of people who are kind of biased towards like how they think they or how I would want to raise my child and teach my child.
Hmm.
But yeah, for me, I feel like it's a hard thing to say. Like, I think it feels like it's an awkward thing to say also to your children, to be honest. Like, if I was,
Yeah,
was supposed to sit down with my child, also, I'd be like, "Damn, I don't know anything to tell you, man. Like, I
it
don't know.
it's definitely going to be awkward for both parties, but I feel like
So
it's still
the
a
so
necessity.
so the peen goes in the bajimbas, and bajimbas comes
Everyone's
out
got
and
to
becomes
start
a flag
somewhere
dog.
also lah. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not just up to the parents to be able to like teach the kids the birds and the bees, but also I think the education system, especially in Malaysia, should do better lah, in my
yeah,
own
they do.
personal opinion, right? Be able to like prevent all these issues to like that will come about, that kind of thing lah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, abstinence is always best, but like I mean, human nature, how much?
uh,
Yeah, there's only so much we can
Control.
withstand.
there will come a
Honestly.
time where puberty hits, and these become horny as kids and monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
We understand. We've been there once.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, so I think essentially we've covered most of all we have to say about sex education in Malaysia, in other parts of the world, and why we need it, what are the consequences, and what we should look forward to as individuals to educate the future generation. So, if that is all we have to say, then I think I'm going to thank everyone for listening, taking the time to listen to us, and also to be a part of this very, very civil discussion, I would say. We tried our
Mhm.
best not to make it sound patronizing, like we are encouraging the public because of the legality of abortion. But also, we're not telling you that it's also like a free pass. So, this is also going
Yeah.
to be you know, these are tough choices to make, and for the future generation to essentially have a helping hand on this kind of choices in the future, they would definitely need to have some sort of sex education in their life, be it from the
Yeah.
schools, from their parents, or from a third party. As long as these kids are aware, then hopefully we can have like a better future.
Yep.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
So, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Ikat Tepi podcast. Stay tuned for updates on episode 5, which will be releasing very, very soon. But other than that, thank you. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Peace,
No.
peace, peace.